Hey guys, it's Jason back here with another sports talk video real quick. I'm going to mix this one up a little bit and, normally I talk about the local Kansas City area teams. Those are the ones I'm most informed about. Those are the ones that obviously I follow the closest and, I feel like I can give the best opinions on those, the most informed opinions on those teams. But I want to weigh in a little bit on the Chicago Bears and their kind of dilemma that they almost have, which really I want to get into here in a second. Just how unprecedented I really think it is and why I think it's such a fascinating sports topic to talk about a little bit, especially because, everybody, including myself, everyone loves to play armchair GM, right? If you're a sports fan, if you follow sports, hey, I want this guy, I want to trade that guy, I'd cut that guy, of course, I really like this guy in the draft. Everyone always likes to play those games, and that's why I just think that this Chicago Bears decision that they have on their hand is so much fun to think about. So for those of you that don't know, the Chicago Bears hold the number one pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. They got it in a trade with the Carolina Panthers last year, a trade that was very smart. They ended up trading back last season so that Carolina could trade up and get Bryce Young with the number one pick. And Carolina wanted Bryce Young. They wanted him badly enough to trade up for him. They wanted to get a franchise quarterback, and that's what they did. And the Bears kind of got to benefit from that, I would say, by being able to. Now, in the next season, the Chicago Bears ended up winning, 7 games or so this year. I think they won 7 or 8 games, something like that. They were not a terrible team. They really played better towards the end of the year. And you feel like, okay, well, typically a team that has 7 or 8 wins is not getting the number one pick in the draft. Typically, the number one pick in the draft is going to be a team that won 2 games. It's going to be a team that's just not very good. And because Carolina was so bad this season and Chicago had their draft pick, the Bears ended up with the number one draft pick in this year's draft. And they still have Justin Fields, their quarterback that they drafted 10th overall 3 years ago. He's played 3 seasons in the NFL. He's had some success. It's been an up and down career for him so far. I think even the biggest Justin Fields defender, I think, would probably say that. I have not watched a ton of Justin Fields. They did play the Chiefs this year, and the Chiefs, that game just wasn't even a contest. The Chiefs just got hot early. I couldn't take much away from Fields in that game other than his athleticism. I think most people see that Justin Fields is a very athletic quarterback. I mean, he's a 1,000-yard rusher type quarterback, which is really amazing. And I know he's made some improvements throwing the ball, but it doesn't really seem to me from afar, and also looking at the stats, like his progress has been big. Like he's made, noticeable growth as a passer, at least statistically. Some of that is because they've had a lot of different offensive coordinators. They've had multiple head coaches. Obviously you never want to see that for a young quarterback. But so anyways, here the Bears are. Here they sit with the number one pick in the draft, which is really a rare thing to have. The Kansas City Chiefs had the number one pick in the 2012 NFL draft after that terrible, I guess it was the 2013 NFL draft, after that terrible 2012 season where they went 2-14. There really wasn't a consensus number one pick. So the Chiefs ended up drafting Eric Fisher. It was a good pick. It worked out well. The other guys in that draft, they just go back and look at the 2012 NFL draft, or 2013, NFL draft, if you ever just want to see a draft that just didn't pan out well. The Bears have a very unique opportunity in that they have a quarterback who they think, and most people I think is capable, in Justin Fields. He still has a year left on his rookie deal, and then he has a 5th-year option that the Bears could exercise. Obviously, that Justin Fields is going to want to get paid soon. He probably feels that, because he has had so much success rushing the ball, and because he has been a viable passer at least, maybe a below-average passer, but, even average starting quarterbacks in the NFL get paid. So Justin Fields is going to be ready for a new contract. I don't know that the Bears are going to give it to him this offseason. If they did stick with him, I don't think they would. But anyways, back to the decision at hand, back to the question at hand. What do the Chicago Bears do with the number one overall pick? Do they stick with Justin Fields, their current quarterback, and trade the first overall pick? Do they keep Justin Fields and draft a player like Marvin Harrison Jr., who is most people think might be the best player in the draft? Do they draft? Do they get rid of Justin Fields, trade him this week at the NFL Combine to the Atlanta Falcons for, let's say, a second or a third round pick, which I think is probably what they would get for him? And then do they draft a quarterback? And there's 3 quarterbacks really being talked about right now that have the potential, I think, to go in the top 5. That's Caleb Williams out of USC. That's Drake May out of North Carolina. And then Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner from this season out of LSU. And, Caleb Williams has been the guy that for the last couple of years, everyone has said, this guy is a can't-miss prospect. He's going to be great. He's going to be the next Andrew Luck. He's going to be the next Trevor Lawrence, Peyton Manning, that guy that goes number 1, that it's like he's a can't-miss prospect. He's going to be great. People get caught up, media people get caught up all the time in these recency bias and this dead time, because right now nothing's going on. The season's over. People need something to talk about. I need something to talk about. I'm talking about the Chicago Bears. I'm not even talking about local Chiefs, Kansas City Chiefs teams or Royals or Mizzou. Not to say about Mizzou, but yeah, I'm not even talking about them right now. And so there's a lot of dead time where they need to talk about things. And I feel like what's happening lately is that people are starting to talk about other quarterbacks maybe even being better than Caleb Williams as a prospect. And I give the media credit that they don't do this every single year with these can't-miss type guys. Like last year, people liked Bryce Young. A lot of people liked Bryce Young, but they didn't. I don't really remember the can't-miss word being thrown out very often, that phrase being thrown out very often that described Bryce Young, and certainly not C.J. Stroud, who ended up having the much better rookie season anyways. We'll see who has the better career. But yeah, it's really interesting that people are not starting to turn on Caleb Williams, but I think that they're starting to be a little bit more lukewarm on him in terms of, has he separated himself from the pack enough? Because I agree from a philosophical level that the smartest thing the Bears could do would be to actually trade back a couple picks, grab another first-round pick this year, or a second-round pick this year, a first-rounder next year, maybe another second-rounder next year. Get a lot of draft capital to where you could really feel like, okay, we're going to beef up our team in the trenches. We're going to draft maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. this year and still end up with a great, maybe Hall of Fame level player. I don't know. We'll see about Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't know. Malik Neighbors had much better stats than Marvin Harrison did this year, so I kind of feel like Malik Neighbors might be getting overlooked a little bit, but he's probably going to go in the top 10 also, it appears. So conceptually, yes, I like the idea of trading back and getting more assets. The problem I have with it is that if you are the Chicago Bears and you are sitting there and you feel like Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Drake May, if you feel like that is the guy, if you feel like, okay, Caleb Williams is going to be a star quarterback, we just know it, he's a can't-miss prospect, I am telling the Bears, you got to get that guy. I think we are so lucky here as Kansas City Chiefs fans right now to be able to sit down and to watch our team play with the best quarterback in the world, probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, debatably already one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks of all time. He is a force multiplier. When you have a quarterback like that on your roster, he makes everybody better. It makes your offensive line better to have a quarterback like that can move, especially like Caleb Williams. And Jaden Daniels can also move too. You have a quarterback that can move. It makes your offensive line better. It makes your receivers look better. It makes your offensive coordinators look better. Having that quarterback is invaluable. And so what I would suggest to the Bears is this, as just some guy sitting in Kansas City on a Sunday in some shorts talking about sports, but I would suggest to the Bears is that they're doing their homework. They're looking at all these guys. They've obviously done their homework on Justin Fields, the guy they have in-house right now. I would ask first off about Justin Fields. Do you think Justin Fields is a quarterback who is good enough to win multiple Super Bowls? That's the question. It's simple. If you think Justin Fields is good enough to where he can win you multiple Super Bowls, he can win you multiple NFC championships, a few several division titles. If you think he has that in him, then stick with Justin Fields. Stick with him. Stick with him. Trade back 2 or 3 spots. Get tons of draft capital. Still get Marvin Harrison Jr. The Bears also, by the way, I should mention, also hold the 9th overall pick in this year's draft. So the Bears are set up really well. Again, that trade last year was an all-time great trade in my opinion, especially if they end up landing a Hall of Fame player like Caleb Williams potentially, or Marvin Harrison Jr., or any of those other players. Anybody, really. But if the answer is no on Justin Fields, well, look, I think he's good. This is me talking as a Bears, executive, or as a fan or a coach or whoever. Well, I think Justin Fields is pretty good. Yeah, I think you can win 10 games with him. I think you can win a division maybe with him. I'm sitting here telling you right now, that is not good enough. If you have the number 1 overall pick in the draft and the 9th pick in the draft, and there are potentially right now 3 quarterbacks that they're talking about that could all be stars in the NFL, Caleb Williams being the one that they've been talking about for years that could potentially be this generational type prospect, you have to roll the dice and go get one of those guys. And that's up to the Bears to decide. That's where the scouting comes in, right? If they think Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback, go ahead and take Jayden Daniels. Go ahead and do that. Or if you think you could trade back 1 spot with Washington, get another first-round pick next year, or a second this year and a first-round pick, whatever, next year, and Washington wants Caleb Williams, but you actually want Jayden Daniels, then sure, go ahead and make that trade. Or maybe and then I think this is probably more close to the truth. I think they probably like multiple quarterback prospects. I think they probably like Caleb Williams a lot, or maybe they love him. I think they maybe also love Jayden Daniels. Maybe they love Drake May. Maybe they love all of them, and it's very, very close. If it's very close, then the Bears are sitting in a position where they can't lose right now. You can't lose, because that means that you are going to have the opportunity to trade back, because somebody will trade into that number 1 spot. They will do it. Washington will do it. Maybe New England does it. A team will make that trade if they think that if they fall in love with a guy. And I think because Washington just hired Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, as their offensive coordinator, used to coach Caleb Williams, I think it's pretty obvious they're going to want Caleb Williams. And maybe the Bears really think, you know what, we think Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback. Kind of similar to last year, where most people were talking about Bryce Young. We think Bryce Young's the guy. Bryce Young, he's the guy. And then C.J. Stroud's sitting there, and C.J. Stroud is, I think, 4 or 5 inches taller and weighs 20 or 30 more pounds than Bryce Young does. And he's out here as a rookie, winning a division, winning a playoff game, and just looking like a franchise quarterback right now. And so the Panthers would probably make a different decision if they knew what was going to happen, right? But you don't know what's going to happen. So that's why they're just going to have to scout. They're going to have to do their homework. They're going to have to ask all these questions about their character, their work ethic. Are they going to get better? Because none of these guys are going to just step in and are just going to be a Hall of Fame player immediately. It doesn't work that way. Are these people showing you, are these guys showing you that they have the potential to improve, that they are on an upward trajectory to where they are going to turn into that great top 5 quarterback? And so that's what I would do if I'm the Bears. But I cannot stress enough that you have got to take that quarterback if you think that that's the guy, because Justin Fields is going to have to get a contract soon. You're going to have to pay him $40+ million a year. And if you think he's the 16th best quarterback in the NFL, you cannot pass up the opportunity to potentially get a great quarterback like Caleb Williams, or maybe Drake May, or maybe Jayden Daniels. So that's what I would do if I'm the Bears. And I think that it's just very important that don't take your eye off the prize. Chicago White Sox fans, this one might make some sense to you, probably will, but the road to Rodon, remember that? That was a phrase that people were talking about. I'm talking about baseball here. I'm flipping the subject a little bit, but Carlos Rodon was supposed to be a can't-miss prospect the year before he was drafted. So the White Sox were tanking, or whether they were or not, that you wanted them to tank so they could get Carlos Rodon. Well, Carlos Rodon ended up not having a great junior season. I think it was his junior, maybe it was his senior season. He was not quite as good. I think he missed a little time with an injury. And he actually ended up going third in that next draft to the Chicago White Sox. So the White Sox did not get the number one pick, which I think at the time people thought, oh no. And I forget who the other prospect was that jumped ahead of him. But the point is that if you had asked a White Sox fan the year before, hey, you guys are going to be bad this year, that's a given. You're going to get the third overall pick in the draft, and you're still going to get Carlos Rodon. You'd have been very, very happy about that because Carlos Rodon was still that guy. Now, is he a great example in terms of what he's actually done in his major league career? I think he is because Carlos Rodon has been a very good pitcher. He's been injury prone a little bit. He's had inconsistencies. Obviously, he ended up leaving the White Sox later, which is just what happens in baseball, so you don't really fault the draft pick with that. But you don't let the new talk and just the staleness of, oh, we've known we're going to have the number one pick for a couple months now, start letting you talk yourself out of taking the guy. If Caleb Williams is the guy, if your scouts are all saying he's the guy, if everyone else's scouts are saying he is the guy, take the guy. Get the guy because you have to have a quarterback to win in the National Football League. You just do. You look at the final four teams this year in the AFC. Let's just look at the AFC because the NFC is a little different. So maybe we'll look at them too. But in the AFC, Lamar Jackson, MVP. Josh Allen, 2 seed. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the world, ended up getting the 3 seed this year. And then the 4th seed, I think, was C.J. Stroud. Yeah, I think that, it was C.J. Stroud. And I think there's a lot of people that would say that C.J. Stroud might be the 4th or 5th best quarterback in the AFC this year outside of Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is still a dog. That guy's got to be number 2 or 3, I think, at worst. And then you look over on the NFC side. San Francisco obviously made it to the Super Bowl. They have an extremely talented roster. I think Brock Purdy is very good. He could have easily won this Super Bowl. So I don't think time will tell with Brock Purdy, but I think he is trending towards being a very good quarterback. Jared Goff was a number 1 overall pick. Jared Goff has been a really good player. He's been very good for Detroit. I'd say he is easily a top 12 quarterback. I think you could maybe make an argument he's more like top 10 or 8. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been to an NFC Championship game now with another team, which is extremely impressive. And then you got Jalen Hurts with the Eagles, really, really good quarterback. These are the teams at the top. Dak Prescott. You have to have a great quarterback to win. And I just don't think that the Bears should try to follow the Minnesota Vikings route where you go get Kirk Cousins, who's, again, probably the 12th best quarterback, somewhere around there. He's kind of ebbed and flowed throughout his career, and he's been a good quarterback. It's been no question that he's been a good quarterback pretty much since his first year playing, but he's never been that elite guy. And that's why no one ever takes the Vikings seriously, or they never took Washington seriously whenever he was playing for them. So I just would caution Bears fans to just not get too bored of knowing that your team is in arguably the best position in NFL draft history. And with obviously being in that position, there's obviously a ton of pressure for them to make the right decision. And so, yeah, there is a ton of pressure, and you're going to have to trust your scouts. And you know what? If all of your scouts look at your general manager, Ryan Pace, in the eye and your owner in the eye and tell you, we think Jaden Daniels is actually the best quarterback prospect, but we know Washington wants Caleb Williams, we're going to trade back, and we're going to take Jaden Daniels, and we're going to get another pick. And we're going to still get, at number 9, we might end up with Malik Neighbors. We might end up with the best offensive tackle in the class, or one of the best safeties or defensive ends. And that tight end, Brock Bowers out of Georgia. We're still going to end up with that guy, and then we're going to get more picks this year in the second round, and then we're going to get another first-round pick next year. That's the move you got to make if you're Chicago. But if you think Caleb Williams is the guy, and you think there's a sizable gap, I would even argue a okay to reasonable sized gap, because the margin of error with these quarterbacks is so small in the NFL. It's the difference between Brian Hoyer and Patrick Mahomes it looks like from here to the moon, when you're watching them play. But these guys, these are the best quarterbacks in the world. Blaine Gabbert is a better example. I mean, he's not nearly as good as Patrick Mahomes, but you know what? He's one of the top 64 quarterbacks in the world because he's in the NFL, and he's a backup. So he's the number 2 quarterback. So if you think Caleb Williams is the guy, take Caleb Williams. Don't overthink it. If you think he's the guy, if you think he is better than Jaden Daniels, if you think he has a better chance of staying healthy in the NFL, if you think he has a better head on his shoulders, if you think he has a better work ethic, if you think he has better physical traits, if you think he has better accuracy, better movement in the pocket, whatever it is, if you think that he is the guy, take the guy. That's what I would do. I think that's what they should do. Do not overthink it. I would also say on top of that too, though, is don't worry too much about what other people think. Because a lot of people have made the argument, oh, they should take Caleb Williams because everyone thinks they should take Caleb Williams. Nobody is going to say, wow, they really made the mistake by taking Caleb Williams because he's supposed to be this generational guy. He's been this generational type prospect hype for the last couple of years. Everyone has been saying that, so you can't go wrong by taking Caleb Williams. Well, no, you can go wrong. Don't worry about what other people have to say about it. Just do what you think is the right move. Make the right move here, and obviously that you think is the right move. Obviously they want to make the right move, but that's what they should do. Don't worry about what other people are going to say, because right now, what are people saying about Carolina? They're saying, oh, wow, the Panthers made a huge mistake. Wow, they could have had C.J.